watching this podcast and you're only listening, she's over here like wiping her eyes, sobbing.
Well, at least I got the crying out of the way.
Good.
So-
Get that over first.
This is Love Letters to the Future, where we talk about stories, tear up the ones that hurt people and harm society, and bring in new stories that help us create the world we want to live in.
Think of it like a message in a bottle that we're casting out to the sea of time to help you now and to help your future self too.
Hi, I'm PJ,
And I'm Laura.
and I am especially thrilled to introduce you to my oldest and dearest friend, my mishpucha, means family, the actress and director and teacher, Karen Austin. Karen has performed a wide range of roles in film, hundreds of hours of television, movies, and miniseries as either series regular, recurring, or guest work. She's been a board member of Screen Actors Guild AFTRA, and she now runs their acting workshops and classes, as well as teaching all over the U.S. Karen's won stage awards and worked opposite greats like Katharine Hepburn, Glenn Close, John Lithgow, and John Candy. And I have to mention, I've also been one of Karen's students, and we're part of hundreds of people who are her creative children. Laura, you have too, right?
So I'll just tell a little story. Karen, I've never told you this. It's not really a story. It's more just like a way you've impacted me. So if you're listening now, just buckle up. This is a very special episode where you get to experience the one like Karen Austin. So this is true, Karen, 100% true. So I met Karen like a couple months after I first moved to LA in 1997. And you were the first time that I had the experience of a woman embodying her own like power. You stand on your feet and you stand grounded in your center, and you are as powerful and strong as a woman as you can be. And I needed to see that because I always had envisioned myself as like this childlike girl, even though when I met you, I was like in my late 30s. And it was time for me to not be a childlike girl. And sometimes still, when I feel like I need to be like a full grown ass woman, I think of you. True story.
If I can add to that story, so I met Karen in 1986. I had just gotten out of college the year before, and I was living in the extra bedroom of a soap opera actress in New York, whom we were both friends with. And Karen comes in with her then boyfriend like a ship under sail and takes over our lives. And we become the equivalent of Sex in the City. And we are walking down the avenues and having the most extraordinary time in a city that wasn't even her own. And I got to see was, as you put it, being fully embodied, what being fully embodied in a life was like. I mean, literally, Karen has shaped my life in ways I can't even begin to explain.
Now, you just got to stop it, guys, because I'm going to cry and I'll be useless.
If you're not watching this podcast and you're only listening, she's over here like wiping her eyes, sobbing.
Well, at least I got the crying out of the way.
Good.
So-
Get that over first.
What we talk about on Love Letters to the Future is this idea that in every discipline, we have old stories that have become myths. They're so embedded in our culture about what we think our discipline is about, what we think the world is about. And what we often find is those stories aren't actually accurate.
Mostly they're completely inaccurate, in fact.
Right, and maybe they were once accurate, but we've held on to them when they're no longer accurate, or they've been shaped by opinions and ideologies that don't actually reflect the world at large. So Karen, who's been such an extraordinary acting teacher to so many people, I know has lots of opinions about how the industry of film and television and theater has held on to these myths about what either the business is like, but also what acting is like. We have lots of questions. You know, what are those myths? What is it, in your opinion, with acting that you think people assume, or even your young students or inexperienced students come in and assume about acting that are just myths?
I'm going to try not to sound snooty. But this is more about the general public, really, than it is actors. But it's about beginning actors, is that they think, oh, I could do that. That it doesn't look hard. And you know what? For some people, that's true.
Can I just jump in here? Coming from the science community, science people think acting's easy. Yeah, and it horrifies me. It does. As somebody who lives in LA and lives like
Yeah.
with actors and amongst actors, the condescension of science people toward actors, it's real. So you're not just imagining it. I've actually seen the science community be all like, oh, acting's easy. It's like, you try to get your ass on stage, you nerd.
Well, they're feeling a little bit what that's like now under the current administration.
To be
Treated as if your
marginalized.
opinions don't
Yeah.
matter, the work
Yeah.
that you've put in, the experience that you've had, where you've placed your heart is worth nothing, and that anybody can do it. And it's not true. There is something to be said for the 10,000 hours. There's something to be said for the work, and the biggest skill of all is learning to toss the work away when you want to lean into inspiration or the muse, right? So that's the toughest skill. Some people are really good at it. They come to the game with it. That ability to let go, to discover what's in front of them. Some people have to remember it from when they were a kid, and some people have to learn from scratch. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll summarize. So you
Okay.
basically, PJ asked, like, what was one myth? And you said that one of the myths was that people think acting's easy. And I gave you an example of some people who actually do think that.
And then I expressed some sympathy for their community.
Well, I mean, I don't know why society likes to look down their noses at one career set or another.
Because our whole culture is set up as better than, less than. Our whole culture is set up as the way we feel about ourselves. Because look at advertising. Like if you buy this, if you do this, if you act this way, then you'll be better than other people, and that means that you're doing okay. And that means that you can get the love that you never got when you were younger. I mean, that's very simplistic, but it's sort of like that. And that's the way it's set up.
So acting is hard and takes 10,000 hours.
The reason acting is hard is because I think that there has to be a willingness to really delve into yourself, and that's the thing that often people when they come to work with me, they're like, they have these revelations when they first start, because when beginners first start, they go, oh, they have these, and then when you get to be a long-term professional, all the gains are much tinier, but those beginning revelations usually come out of the price that you have to pay to dig in your own emotionality, to find the hardware and the hammer and the nail and the things that you use to build characters out of. You get characters out of your gut and your heart and your own pain and your own joy and your own anger.
Wouldn't that be true for a writer? Wouldn't that be true for a singer, a
Yes.
musician, a writer, and painter,
Yes.
other arts as well?
All of the arts, the best arts, I think, are people creating out of their own gunk, out of their own joy, out of their own beauty, out of their own pettiness, out of who we are as humans. And if you want to learn to be a human, read literature.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite book, or some of your top 3?
Always science fiction.
Yay!
Some
Yeah.
people would say that science fiction isn't real literature.
Have they read Parable of the Sower?
Yeah, exactly.
Have they read Ursula Le Guin? Have they read? It's all the women. Have they read Lois McMaster Bujold? Have they read P.J. Manney? I mean, it's all the women.
So, audience, now you've got a book list. You got your homework.
I don't much ask my acting students to read books about acting. I ask them to read books where people talk about the nature of being human. And the resistance to being creative, because it demands more of you than sometimes you're comfortable giving. Creativity. Anyway, you were going to ask a question.
Well, I was going to say that, one of the things I've written about for years is how literature is the engine for empathy, that it makes it so accessible to be able to step into the shoes of another person. But so does acting. And acting is fascinating because actors are like writers. We have to step into the shoes first, right? And then we have to experience those characters so that other people can then step into the shoes when they experience either our writing or your performance.
They always experience it in ways that we can't imagine that they experience it.
Yes.
You know, everybody has their own like way of interfacing with like a performance or a book or music, or, you know, it's why there's so many opinions. And we're artists. We're people. We're human. We're not AI. We're not regurgitated shit.
I just want to go back to something you said. You said something along that people have to. This was so important. It needed to underline and to hear it again. Something about like people don't want to strip off enough to get to that core of how hard it is to get.
I think it's hard for people to come into contact with their own emotionality sometimes, because not all emotionality is comfortable.
Or we allow ourselves a certain part of the rainbow and not the whole rainbow.
That's right. That's right.
And so what does it take then? What does it take then to strip it down to access all that? I think that's what you were saying. People don't want to. People don't want to strip down, but yet they have to.
Well, they do and they don't. They, on some level, they understand theoretically that it's good to be in touch with your emotions. But like the minute they start getting in touch with their emotions, it's painful and it's work. And it's like, it takes a lot of self-forgiveness in some ways to even understand your own resistance to feeling what you actually feel. And then to actually use what you actually feel. Because we dismiss the way we actually feel a lot of times because it's not comfortable, or because we think we shouldn't feel that way, or it's like me having a meltdown trying to get on the computer interface. I was embarrassed because I shouldn't feel that way, right?
But then you should use it. Use your embarrassment to be human.
I just used it just now.
All right, so Karen, demoing, what is it? Practicing what you preach.
Practice it. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Exactly. I think this does go back to sort of the very first question we were asking, which is, you know, some artists believe they're just ready, right? Like I can just do this. I'm prepared. And other artists have the opposite experience, which is just feel they're never ready.
Yeah.
And you know, where does that balance come? How do you reach them? How do you pull one in one direction and someone else in the other direction? Because they are very opposite instincts.
And all of that has been exacerbated by the growth of the internet, the growth of social media, the dumbing down of the corporate people that choose what's going to be seen by the public and isn't going to be seen by the public, where the funding goes, what the board of directors have to say. The way in which things are created now is harder, I think, than it used to be. And there is a democratization of the airwaves. Everybody's created, but not everybody's qualified. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has a creative nature, and everybody should be creating things, but not everybody is necessarily camera ready.
So how does one know? I mean, and I have this.
You know when you look
personally.
at it, for starters. And then there has to be a way in which you work with people, whether it's working in a theater company, or you're working with a teacher, or you're working in a studio, or you're lucky enough to get a job and you pay the attention to what's going on with you in the given circumstances. You have to pay attention to where the resistance is about what you're trying to create, or the resistance is to who you are.
So you're saying a person should be able to look at their art and self-evaluate based on the art and say, this is ready, or this is...
No, it's more an internal experience. One of the things that I find problematic actually in this new crop of young actors coming up is because they've been raised on, and I don't want to sound like this old cranky crone, although I am, but They're also aware of how they look on camera and how they seem on camera. You know, it's like the first thing I did when we got on camera together is I taped over my own image so that I wouldn't know what I look like. Because you edit yourself, and these actors edit themselves. And a lot of times when you're experiencing high emotionality, when you're in the middle of like doing a heavy scene, whether it's on stage or it's on TV or it's on film, you don't look pretty. You can't look perfect. And when you're attached to the image that you see over there and the way you're supposed to be, you're no longer inside your experience.
That's interesting. Are you saying that people want to be? I know this is going to sound stupid and obvious, but people want to be pretty and look good all the time?
Perfect. They have set perfect standards for themselves.
Wow. See, I thought just the opposite. I thought that people wanted to be character actors, especially now you see male full frontal nudity with a tiny little penis and some hairy guy and like all kinds of crazy shit is on.
I think what people want is to be seen and heard. That's the basic. I don't know who said it first. I know Oprah said it. She probably got it from somebody, but there is a standard by which people have to have a kind of perfection that they have built up from watching other people or comparing themselves to other people. And to accept yourself the way you are, to notice what works and what does not work about you rather than what you should be, and what works in sense organically with who you are, how you feel. It's what I'm saying, like that's why I was talking before about like how people are not necessarily willing to feel what they actually feel because it may not be pretty.
But some of the most successful actors are character actors who have all different shapes, sizes, body types, scars.
All of that. But there's still a way in which people have this idea. And I'm not saying that the really good actors are like that. They have come to some sort of peace with themselves. Do you know? Or they've come to trust their instincts. They've come to look in the mirror enough to like go, oh, that's what I look like. But the people that are trying to become different than who they are is because they're chasing perfection, which is always a loser's game. You know, I want to do it right. Wanting to do it right. You know, there is no right. So
this is really interesting to me because it's fundamentally about the access of younger generations to new technologies. You know, I'm looking at this comment and thinking directly about teenagers working on TikTok and Instagram and trying to present themselves as entertainment, right? They want eyes on them. But the false notion that, you know, they may be adorable and charming to watch for a minute, but are these people who actually have the ability, because they're willing to delve into themselves and not be completely obsessed with the perfection, which, by the way, they can edit the pixels to make themselves look more perfect by using filters, etc. That obsession with presenting themselves, but not actually presenting their real self.
well, at that point, at that age, they don't know what their real self is.
That's true.
So, and they just watch themselves so much. They're so aware, and they're trying, and it's perfectly normal for teenagers to go through that. But it's not something that actors should still be doing once they're trained.
Sure, you would hope they grow out of it.
Yeah, I think it was Dan. Laura and I both had a relationship with a man named Dan Fosse. He was I can say
A work
he was my
relationship.
mentor.
Yeah, he was
that's what I meant.
definitely
Yeah,
one of my
mentor.
mentors. Yeah.
Yeah, one of mine. And he used to always say that the actor's journey is the journey to the self.
Absolutely.
And the artists, I'm going to be more inclusive
Artists,
and
yeah,
include,
do it.
you know, writers, painters, singers, musicians, what other kind of art, and visual artists.
There seems to be a myth with performers that when they're starting out, that there's only one path towards fame. So like, just back to what I was saying, that, you know, well, first you have to start on social media, because it's easily accessible. Anybody with a phone can be on social media. Then you have to do this. Then you have to do that. Like that, there's an established pathway to getting your performance self out there versus what?
I've been doing this for like more than 50 years, and I would say the one thing I've learned is that there are no rules. And the minute that you've got a rule, someone's going to prove you wrong on it. And I will also admit that I don't really know, given that the industry has changed so much. Given, like, in, for example, Los Angeles, I think it's like we're at 42% of what we normally are filming, something like that. The
42% of the movies coming out. You mean?
42% of production. It's down by 40. It's down
In
to
Los
42%.
in Los Angeles.
Just in Los Angeles, yeah.
Since the pandemic.
Well, I don't know,
Since when?
This year, since basically
this
like
year. Wow.
I mean, yeah, it's not just anecdotal. There are figures. So, and a lot of my students are doing these verticals. Do you know about these verticals that are the people can create their own platforms to show stuff, and then they film these and they do bite size.
And
so
they're
it's like
making
soap
money
operas,
out of it.
and they're making money out of it because they're really only visible on the phone.
Yeah. Verticals.
Yeah.
And they're doing
And they're
serial
big
verticals.
in China. Yeah.
So they can
Yeah.
sell them there.
So the way in which the industry is changing is huge. One of the stories that people who run the studios that run production companies have told themselves for a while that was damaging to our industry was that show business can be run just like a business, and it's not. They left out artists aren't widgets. You can't just crank them out. The artists are IP. And
Intellectual property, for those who don't know what that
intellectual
is.
property, and that the consolidation of the arts, of the filmed arts anyway, into the six big, what are they called, the big six? Who are, can we name them off? Like Viacom, Disney, Warner, Paramount. Anyway, there's six of them, I think, and they change and they morph and they eat each other up and all that. And then they all want to be, ding, 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 they all want to be Netflix. And so they blew their budgets over the last X number of years trying to set themselves up as streaming platforms. And they're all in debt. And they're, right now, I cannot even tell you how many checks I'm getting in the mail now for like 45 cents from stuff I've made forever ago, because they're starting to run it all again from 30 years ago or whatever. Because they're not making it as much. This is my extremely naive, very reductive version of what's going on in the industry right now.
Well, I have a question, though. I mean, this is a big picture question that you may not know the answer to, in the sense of, like, art by its very nature is kind of a resistance movement. And, okay, so...
And the only guarantee of sanity.
These big six or these giant multinationals, they're trying to control the commercial side of it, the mercantile side of it. But, so the question is at the end of the day, doesn't the real art always find a way?
Well...
It's very hard in collaborative mediums for that to be true. I think real art finds a way with the singular artist. And it may take a while. You may have to die first. That's the famous trope, certainly. That's based in reality. But creative collaboration is a whole different ballgame.
Also, when it's a team sport, and you have to, and it takes a lot of money to get everybody outfitted and suited up to go. Like what it costs to make a movie, to make a television show. Also, these conglomerates, they're not just the multi-level entertainment conglomerates. They aren't just television movies. They're printed matter. They're television stations they own. It's all of that, which is why the news feeds that we get are so reductive. They're all so alike. You can go from Tucson to Virginia to Alabama, and you'll see the same message going, because all of those stations have been given scripts by their owners.
The
of
same, and
what
they're
has
all
to be
owned
said.
by the same
Yeah, and they're all
entities.
owned by the same.
So I wonder what's the future then?
Oh, well, I am not Cassandra.
I mean, what's the next progression?
These men of power in their high-rise rooms, I think that they tend to think of artists as fungible. And I think that the way that the industry is now makes us feel like we're fungible. So we have to do our own auditions so that that they structure the way parts are written so they're smaller, so you only work one day, so you're not in collaboration with other artists as much. There's a lot of ways in which the industry has changed. But so it may be that right now, currently for me personally, it's hard for me to see the way that young actors are going to be able to make a living the way I did. But we don't know.
Well,
you
that
know.
could be true in so many different fields, not even
It's
necessarily the
true, I
arts.
know.
You know, the money is like only at the. I mean, if you're a shopkeeper, you used to be able to make a living as a restaurateur, as a shopkeeper. Now, who knows? So that is across the board, I think.
Do you see your students looking at the industry in a way you didn't? So do they look at it and say, well, we're going to go and make our own stuff. We're going to learn how to be good performers,
Yes.
but then we're going to go off and do our own thing, as opposed to
Yes.
the old days, which was, you waited, you had agents, they found you auditions, you went for the audition. It was all mediated by a big ecosystem.
Well, there was a certain system which was actually served you as an artist, because you would go meet people in person. So right now, they like 30 seconds, they watch of your tape and then they just go on to the next one for that one part. But when you went in for auditions in person, you would get to know those people. They would think about you for other parts. They would
Right.
develop relationships where you can be insensate with people. You can see them. You can get a sense of them. You can shake their hand goodbye. It's like a human experience. This business of, and we're having a human experience right now, but I wish I could hug you guys. I wish I could smell your neck, It's like,
See our legs.
you have them? I know.
Nobody has legs.
I only exist from the tits down, up rather.
Up, always up.
Always tits up.
Always up.
So I have a question about this too, because in my mind, the auditions, like the self-tape auditions where you're in there literally with your stupid light, reading the lines into your
Yeah.
phone and then
Yeah.
mailing it off, was for smaller roles. But aren't some of the more meaty roles still done like
All right.
old school?
So this is one of those stories that people are telling themselves now, that down the road they will figure out that this does not work on a certain level. Like even big people, really people that have
like well-known
good,
actors
solid careers
with careers.
submit, and on one way it's incredibly convenient for all concerned if you like doing self tapes. I was doing a movie in Puerto Rico with a guy, Enzo Salente, and I just kept putting him on tape when we were down there working on some other project, and he got cast out of a bunch of those. But he's good at self tapes. It's a skill.
It's a whole different skill.
It's
But
a-
I think
I
that
think so. I
auditioning
think
is
so.
a different skill than acting
Yes.
anyway.
Absolutely.
Same with applying for a
Absolutely.
job is a different skill than having the job, and that was
Yeah.
the case forever.
I guess there are people that are more self-generators than some other artists. I am not a self-generator. I go off the energy to other people. Literally, when I give lectures at Screen Actors Guild, I get some of my students to come with me so that, I can look over at them and they all laugh at my jokes, and then I'll feel more. I need to feel connection. I think it's the secret to great acting. I think it's the secret to life is connection. And in fact,
It
I'm
is.
giving
It is,
a
just so
lecture
you know.
next week about it. I know.
E.M. Forrester, only connect.
Is that what he said? Oh.
E.M. Forster, only
See,
connect.
I always feel like I'm reinventing the wheel. These really smart people knew it before I did, you know?
I've been saying that there's connection in art, and everything else is bullshit.
That's it.
Those are the only two things that exist.
I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of money and a lot of power, and they don't have the ability to be artists, and they are the poorer for it. I don't necessarily think that business gives them an outlet for the creativity that everybody needs.
Oh, and we didn't say dancer. We forgot. How can we forget about dancers?
Dancers learn with their bodies. They're in some ways like get beginning actors. If a beginning actor is a dancer, they learn so much quicker. Because emotions are in the body.
I've noticed this a lot in the science community, along the lines of wanting to be seen and heard. And there's a natural desire for it, but then that desire, if it goes unfulfilled, becomes like a desperation or a hunger to be seen and heard. And the way that expresses itself is by talking too fast, talking too much, not giving pauses, repeating yourself endlessly, and so you end up going like this. And so in the desperation to be heard and seen, you don't get heard and seen at all. So can you talk to that?
Yeah, they have a picture of how they're supposed to be, and they're watching themselves. And the way they are being received in that sort of performance is more important than what they have to say. So, okay, what you have to say has to be more important than your fear of humiliation. Boom.
Boom, mic drop.
I know, it's like a mic
Pause
drop.
for emphasis.
But it's just, I really think about it. I think about the other ways to say it. And the other ways to say it is that, one of the ways to say it is that there is a fear of like putting yourself beyond a certain point.
So, true story, I've won a bunch of Webby awards for different websites. And so going to the Webby ceremony, everybody gets to give their 5-word speech, right? And these are not actors, these are just kind of web designers and whatnot, from all different kinds of people. And I remember the first time I went, and at the mastery, and one of the things I learned from Karen is to just stand still. And that's super vulnerable, right? So people would go up to the mic, give their 5-word speech, and then just rush off. And I was just sitting there in my chair, like screaming in my brain was screaming, get up to the mic, pause, look at the audience,
See them seeing you.
give your 5-word speech, stand there,
Breathe.
see them see you again, and then walk off. It's so much more nobody frickin' did it.
Okay, so the thing that humans hate worse than being judged is being acknowledged. It is hard for people to accept real acknowledgement. And they run from it. Because either it's not going to be enough, or it's not going to fix who they are, or they're embarrassed by it, or whatever reasons. Or all of the above in one package. So that's that fear of being acknowledged and like not meeting their own standards of how they're supposed to look when they accept an award.
That's actually, you've just blown a myth. Everybody assumes everybody wants attention. Everybody assumes they want the kudos and the acknowledgement and the congratulations. But in fact, in lived reality, when you meet people, 75% of them are exactly as you just described.
Yeah, they want it. They can't accept it.
I think it's maybe because it's beaten into us as children that we're not supposed to be too proud, or we're not supposed to be big enough for our britches, which I don't even know what britches are, so that's a stupid expression, but britches? Who the fuck wears britches?
No, but it's hard to take acknowledgement because either you judge the way it's being given to you, like, or you're afraid somebody wants a piece of you, and they usually do. You know, when people, they want contact with you, they want connection with you, and if it's somebody you don't really know, and they're like, I'm just talking about just my own experience of like when I in the 45 minutes of fame that I had, whatever it was, that I was never comfortable with people acknowledging me and that I didn't know.
but it's also cultural. Like,
You think? Yeah.
oh, totally. So for instance, in Eastern cultures, if you're complimented, you immediately deflect and then give the compliment to someone else. So let's say, if you complimented me, say, "Oh, well, you know, I'm honored you think that, but really the honor belongs to my parents who taught me how, or my boss who did this."
Or to God.
Right, or whatever it is. In this country, so I live in New Zealand, and New Zealand and Australia have what's called the tall poppy syndrome, which comes from the old myth about the king who said, took his scythe to show his son what he should do to a conquered land, and he cut all the blossoms off the tallest poppies. And so the tall poppy gets the scythe. You don't want to be the head of the tall poppy who's poking up. So everybody's like, "Oh no, we're very egalitarian and no one's better than anybody else." And which, fine, that can be true, and you can still compliment someone for something. But when you compliment someone in Australia or New Zealand, they get really like, thanks. They don't know how to take it.
I thought you were also going to talk about how you were saying like it's really hard to receive praise, but I thought you were going to say something like it's really hard to stand on stage and not say anything and just be quiet for a moment.
Well, I forget that it's hard because I've learned to do it. I also know it's a place of safety now. It's like, get on the stage, just breathe, just be there. It feels like it's 20 minutes, but it's probably 30 seconds. And really let people see you. And connect with yourself, with those people, in that moment. It's about finding another way of being present. We go in and out of our bodies 1,000 times a day. People, when you don't work to be present, it's as if you're living your life as a tourist who just visits countries by being in their airports. And that in some ways is that resistance that we've talked about. We've skirted a little bit about like people not wanting to, when in deep water, become a diver, emotionality or creatively, or that it should be easy, it looks easy. Tell that to a pole vaulter. Tell that to a Formula One driver. Oh, he's just driving a car, It's like, that's the point. That's the point, that ease comes with vast amounts of experience. That single leg lifted or arm lifted of the ballerina, the one brilliant Picasso signing his name, A lot of the stories that people tell themselves arise from times in their life when they were trying to protect themselves. And it's just old stories that don't serve you anymore.
Can you give us an example?
I remember telling myself the story that I wasn't ready yet, even though I had a master's in theater and I had already done tons of stage and all that stuff. And I came out to LA and I was trying to figure out what I was going to be. I think I blundered into acting. Though I'd been acting my whole life, I told myself the story that I wasn't ready. And then I did this play, and it ran for a year. It ran equity, 8 shows a week, and every show there was a standing ovation, and I was the lead in the show. And it was like, it took that. So I understand there's a responsibility that you take on when you admit to yourself the size of your talent, or the size of your creativity, or the size of your hunger.
The size of your heart.
Yeah, and your heart. Absolutely. Although I always think people have big hearts. It's like, it's been strange the last few years to realize there are people that have tiny, tiny hearts.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until
I know,
recently.
it was kind of a shock. It's
Shock,
part of,
such a shock. So are you saying that somebody who has been at it for a number of years or whatever, if they don't land that role, or if they don't sell that book or that article or that song, then it means that they just aren't ready yet? Like, how does that...
I don't know. I think one of the skills if you're lucky, that you learn as you get older is self-forgiveness. That you don't have to run every conversation back in your head about how you should have said something else. That you understand that part of the mistakes are part of your gift to other people. Or
I guess I meant in the art, like, how do I say this? There's got to be some people out there who are really talented in their field, but who may not get the external recognition.
yeah, that Brene Brown talks a lot about that. About that when you base how you feel about yourself on other people, what other people say, what other people tell you, how other people acknowledge you, that you will never get enough of it. That it will not, that what ultimately your self-esteem is based on, your sense of self-worth is based on your relationship with what you've created.
It goes back to that original question then, how does one as an artist know that their art is ready? If you can only rely on,
Yourself?
yeah.
It does help to have people applaud you. It does help to have people pay you. It does. All of that helps. But the business and the art are two different things. You can be a brilliant writer and never fucking get a publisher. You can be an incredible dancer and not make the troupe. You can be, a wonderful actor and you just never find your slot. Or you can be a great actor and they keep hiring you for things that don't feed your soul. So you make a living, but it doesn't necessarily. So how do you know whether you're ready or not?
Yeah, how do you know?
I think part of it is being in a community where you get yourself reflected back at you.
Is that what happened when you got that job?
That's part of it. Part of it was really I learned more from the audience than I did other actors, but it in that job. But I continued to do enough work where I could tell in the give and take between me and other actors who I admired that we were playing tennis, that I was returning their serve, that they were returning my serve, that you can feel that flow that happens.
So then that would be true for any artist community, whether or not you're in a writing community or a music community.
Yes,
and
I think
even
so.
if you're doing an art that's more solo, you still get in community with other artists.
Artists get showings, or they have one of their pieces in somebody's showing and it gets some acknowledgement. So in that sense, I think there's a sweet spot of getting acknowledgement from outside of yourself and then developing a relationship with yourself. And I think the braver one is the relationship you have with yourself. Because you have those voices, everybody's got those voices in their heads, especially when they're young. Like how they should be different, how they're not enough, how they're all of that. And your brain's job is to keep you safe. So it's going to tell you all the negative stuff, right? And I think brains are really good to keep you from crossing the street in a bad or dangerous way, but not necessarily, your brain doesn't necessarily encourage you to take risks, emotional risks.
Yeah.
And all creativity is an emotional risk, I think. I mean, if it's to put your stuff out there, to let people read what you write, to let people see you act, I still to this day, every 6 months or so, I'll get up and do something in front of my students, just to have some skin in the game.
I love that.
Usually it's a T.S. Eliot poem. Because those stick in your brain after, a decade or something.
So
yeah.
you've talked about that thing where it's like you don't think you're ready and you have community but what about those people on the other side of the coin who think they're ready when they're not? Like, talk about how that works.
This is going to sound strange, but people who come to me and aren't that talented sort of fall away. Or if they're not ready for it, they just sort of, it's not that I'm hard, it's just that and it's not even that I'm honest, it's just that they see what it takes to be a good actor and then they decide whether or not they're willing to put in the work. I've had people that I thought, I don't know if they're ever going to break through. Go to a cemetery and see how those people aren't able to create anymore, aren't able to put it out there. Like, be creative about your resistance. Find ways to break through. If getting your creation is that important to you, the story about how you can't do it is bullshit. Because there's a lot of people who I think aren't that talented, and they somehow get out there in the world. Good for them. Because some of talent is just being willing to be seen, willing to be heard, willing to be observed, willing to be disdained, willing to be adored. It's the willingness that is the secret sauce. And some people are just born with it, and some people have to heal themselves in order to let their willingness flourish.
I think what Laura was trying to get at is but Karen hit it. I think of her first name was Florence, and I can't remember if she had a double last name. She was a famous opera singer at the beginning of the 20th century who had a lot of money and who loved to perform, but she was terrible. And she would
yes,
book
Meryl
Carnegie
Streep did the
Hall.
movie.
Yes, Meryl Streep made the movie about it with
Yeah.
Hugh Grant as her husband
Right.
promoter. And I've never forgotten that story, which is so compelling because she just had this ultimate self-belief in herself, but there was really truly nothing under it in terms of talent or ability, even all the training in the world. She worked her bottom off to try to become a great opera singer, and she just didn't have the fundamental instrument to work with. And that's there can be people who want to be the greatest dancer, but they don't have the mind-body interface. They don't have the grace or the connection to be able to do it. You can want to be something, or you may not even have the physicality. But she didn't, and yet
I wanted to be an action star, and it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is what I think is so interesting. I do think that is what I would say is the outside of that envelope.
Yeah.
She put herself out there. People paid money to go see her, but more to laugh at her. But she didn't care. It was bottoms and seats. She sold tickets.
I think I'd rather be really, really rich and be able to put myself out there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice? I think all artists would be like, yeah, I'm independently wealthy, so I can just do my art and not have to work at this shitty job.
And there are those actual artists. I mean, there are plenty of people in every aspect of creativity who have that ability to not have to worry about the bottom line. And there's that dichotomy between art for art's sake, business for business sake, and where does the business of art fall in between?
Ultimately, if you had Richard Dreyfuss, he said, if I wanted to be rich, I would have gone into oil.
Right.
It's like I became an actor because I had to act. But if you're going into it for money, I don't know. I've never met anybody that went into it for just money.
No, when we were talking about, PJ mentioned the lady who already had money.
Yeah, you were talking about there are people that have family money or they've made money doing something else and they're able to support their art.
Whether it
But I
sucks
don't think
or not.
Yeah, that's right. But I think the people that make money in their art probably went into it, and the money is the money's a good bonus, but they went into to create something. They were driven to create something.
I think whenever you do an art as your vocation, not just your avocation, but as your vocation, you have to really want it. It has to be something that's you really couldn't do anything else. There's the old story about wanting to be an actor, and it's like, well, could you conceive of doing anything else? If so, go do that, because the chance of you making the money, the odds are so slim in the scheme of things.
So yeah, I kind of have a selfish personal question because I wrote a book I've been querying agents. I've been querying since beginning of February. It's beginning of June now, so February, March, April, May. 4 months I've been querying agents. And part of me has begun to feel like maybe the book's not ready yet. Maybe I need to go back and do another pass or get some more feedback from other writers. I mean, I have had feedback. I have edited the first 50 pages. I've edited the crap out of the first 50 pages, which is all you really send out to get agents. So that's one of the things that you were, talking about, is like knowing as an artist when your work is ready to put out there and when you need to kind of keep working it.
That's why you asked me that question a bunch of
Because
times.
I'm selfish.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
It's hard to get beyond my own desperation.
Oh, well, so you take this desperation and you put it over here. You put your arm around it and you say, thanks for your contribution. I really hear you. Just give me a little bit to really look at this without you yelling at me. I'll buy you a beer later, right? That's part of that. The artist's journey is the journey to the self.
So then after I put that, then what?
Then you read it. You pick it up and you read it. You read it like you've never seen it before.
I mean, I kind of feel like right now this version is the I mean, you can
best.
keep editing and editing and editing, but like I got to the point with this version where I was like, I've edited this to, how you could pick.
Yeah. And in picking, you can sometimes regress. You can
Yeah,
make changes that
exactly.
are not good. I know. I think you read it again with new eyes. Not that you're going to change anything, and inspire yourself. And when you inspire yourself, then it's easier to contact people in publishing, to call up people you know, to ask them who they know. That's the only advice I have about
Okay.
that. Because I really.
mean, and I'm asking this partially selfishly, but somebody listening right now to this podcast may be like, but what about my project? Whether my song, I've been putting my music out there on Spotify. I've been, auditioning for dance, music videos.
Karita Kent says that that it's the people who do the work who ultimately catch on to things. And I don't know who says it to don't miss the miracle. But that often happens at what feels like we're ready to give up. And then to go the extra step and not give up. Just to find out. Because it may be this doesn't work. It may be that it doesn't find a home. But are you going to stop?
No.
There you
Stopping
go,
isn't on the
baby.
menu.
Yeah.
Stopping isn't on the menu, so yeah.
So you may need to inspire yourself. I was talking about being creative about your resistance. To be creative about your own state of mind, to keep trying new ways. There have to be new ways to approach publishers. There have to be, other than self-publishing, there have to be other ways of going about it.
Well, I've queried like 40 agents, so I could query 100. I'll just keep going.
That's what people do when they're looking for agents.
They just keep going.
They just keep going. There's
And
no
then you
choice.
accidentally find an agent when you're 62 because your wife has a friend.
Here's the thing to not dismiss, and that is the miracle of the left field. Most of my biggest jobs came from left field. Like just out of nowhere, just like offers that for parts I didn't think I was right for a lot of money in a foreign country. Sure. So the same thing could happen with your book. It's to allow for the miracle of left field. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how I did it. But I know you can.
The key is to not go crazy while you're waiting for the miracle. So, and I would say that to whoever's listening right now, whether it be your book or your play or your painting or your, dance or whatever it is that you're creating, is to believe in the miracle, to really believe, because that's, I think, my biggest struggle right now is
To
like,
believe.
Also, especially now in the current environment.
The attachment to outcome will always kill you. It will always, it kills performances, it kills laying down with the muse, it kills spontaneity, it kills how we think things are supposed to be. It kills because we get attached to how things are supposed to be. And so we have pictures, the pictures in our head, the stories that don't serve us anymore, to come back to the title of your podcast. Those stories about how it's supposed to be are the ones that shut down our creativity.
I mean, that's a whole nother myth that we could talk about.
I can come back next year.
We'll have you once a year.
Get a Karen tune-up. I do want to emphasize that both Laura and I have not only learned a lot today from Karen Austin, but we have learned throughout the decades. We've both been her students. We have worked with her. We want other people to know how extraordinary she is. She doesn't just teach for SAG-AFTRA, she also teaches at her own studio. Karen, can you tell us where you teach?
I teach in Los Angeles at the Skylight Theater.
We'll put it in the show notes where you can find her. She also teaches workshops once or twice a year.
The masteryworkshops.com.
If you're interested in working with Karen, we'll put it in the show notes, the masteryworkshops.com.
Yeah, that would be great. It's fun because that's a way for people that don't necessarily have a creative outlet to come find new ways to be creative, is come work with the Mastery.
It's a whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. It's a workshop that gives you a chance to step outside of the old and into the new. That's you. New ways of being in relationship with yourself.
It helps artists of every kind. I'm a writer, and it allowed me to finish not just my first book, but create a trilogy out of it, and allowed me to then be able to participate in the entire convention circuit and be on panels and be a very effective voice in all of those situations.
We've worked with veterans, we've worked with paramedics, we've worked with
entrepreneurs.
Lots of entrepreneurs people. Take it. Yeah,
definitely.
Writers, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll just add this. You said earlier that it's like human nature wanting to be seen and heard. And I think that is one of the core...
Maya Angelou. It was Maya Angelou. Keep going.
Who said that? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amongst others. I think some yogis said it like 2,000 years ago as well.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. So if one of the core desires of being human is to be seen and heard, that is one of the teachings of the mastery, is being able to put out your message in a way that lands, so that you do indeed get seen and heard.
That's right. That's one of it. Basically, it's like to experience where you stop, to see what stops you, and then decide if you want to just go a little further. Then maybe a little further. It is a gift to be able to learn how to get out of your own head. It is a skill that you practice for your whole life, is to keep getting present. How do you get present? How do you stay present?
So we want to thank Karen Austin for being amazing.
And we want to thank you for listening and for coming to our show.
Take care.
Keep coming back. It works.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.